Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Outer Rim Cantina. My name's Alan and today I'm here to talk about and give my review of the newest High Republic novel, Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. As I said in my last book review of Light of the Jedi, I'm super excited to explore the High Republic era and discover all of the new stuff Lucasfilm is coming up with for canon. Into the Dark doesn't disappoint with that, and it adds more depth to the lore surrounding the time period and builds upon the foundation that Charles Soule laid down with Light of the Jedi. Though Into the Dark is in some ways drastically different than Light of the Jedi, but in very good ways. Where Light of the Jedi was kicking off and introducing us to this brand new era and telling a story that stretched across entire star systems and included dozens of characters, Into the Dark tells a more self-contained and cohesive story with a distinct cast of characters. Another key difference between the two is that Light of the Jedi played heavily on the reader's emotions, and the overall tone of the novel was on the darker side with the Great Disaster and the Nile. Into the Dark, however, contrary to its name, is a more hopeful story about a handful of Jedi and some cool new pilot characters in the aftermath of the Great Disaster and the opening of the Starlight Beacon in the Outer Rim. Speaking of characters, Into the Dark has some of my favorite new Jedi from this era, and I'm now super excited to learn more about them. While I wasn't too interested in the main character of the novel, Padawan Wraith Silas, his story throughout the book made me eventually change my mind on him. He starts off as a typical Padawan, wanting to do everything right, please his master, and most of all, spend his days reading and doing research in the Jedi archives on Coruscant. I just found it all so boring in the beginning, and I honestly didn't think I was going to enjoy the book very much, but as the story progressed, Wraith discovers that there is much more to being a Jedi than just following rules and reading books. Wraith's character arc is both tragic and hopeful at the same time, and by the end of the book I was ready to jump into whatever story he will be in next to see how his character continues to grow, especially once he becomes a Jedi Knight. As far as the other two characters I loved right from the start, Orla Jirani and Cohmac Vitus are two of the most interesting Jedi of the era because they're so much different than any of the Jedi we've met so far that were introduced in Light of the Jedi. While the Jedi of Charles Soule's novel are the model knights and masters serving the Republic as they're told to do, Orla and Cohmac are almost entirely different. For starters, Orla is an Umbaran Jedi, which is already unusual, but to top it off, she has one of the most unique lightsaber designs with a double-bladed hinged hilt and white lightsaber blades. And even more than her overall character design, which is already awesome, her personality is just relatable and deeply rooted in serving the Force rather than serving the Jedi specifically, much like one of my other favorite Jedi, Qui-Gon Jinn. Orla chose to become a Wayseeker, which is basically a Jedi that doesn't follow the Council's orders to go on missions or serve the Republic. Instead, a Wayseeker follows their own path in the Force, which may or may not coincide with what the Jedi Council says. Cohmac Vitus is much the same, only that he still chooses to follow the will and orders of the Jedi Council while struggling with what his own path in life and the Force is. Throughout the novel, we learn of a past mission the two Jedi shared, where their questions of the Jedi Council had started to arise. On that mission, Cohmac questions the Council's doctrine on emotions and attachment after the loss of his master. Instead of being able to mourn the loss of his best friend and only parental figure he had ever known, the other Jedi are forced to leave him behind to carry on their mission. Cohmac then begins to have doubts about the Council's rules, arguing internally about why he should not be allowed to mourn loss or feel sadness at his master's death. Instead, the Council dictates that he must be impartial and even glad that his master became one with the Force. Both of these characters have their own questions and doubts about the Jedi Council and aren't afraid to question beliefs or doctrines or even strike out on their own independently of the Council, again, much like Qui-Gon Jinn. But aside from the Jedi characters, the book also introduces a new pilot and smuggler character named Lox Gyasi, which, as described by the High Republic authors themselves, is basically a 1990s Matthew McConaughey, but in space and cooler, which is a pretty spot-on description. Lox quickly became one of my favorite non-Jedi characters of the book, for reasons I can't really explain in words. You'll just have to read Into the Dark to find out for yourself. Speaking of things you'll have to read for yourself and find out, a long-running joke throughout the novel was that of my other favorite character named Geode. Geode, to put it simply, is a giant sentient rock that acts as the navigator aboard Lox Gyasi's ship. Geode never speaks throughout the book, but the more you read, the more you begin to learn more about him, and the more he quickly became one of my favorite weird Star Wars side characters. No explanation is ever given as to who or what Geode exactly is, only that he can navigate hyperspace, likes to go clubbing, and can move around without anybody seeing him actually do it. Geode is most definitely the glue of the entire story, and without the giant space rock, I'm pretty sure every single person in the cast would have died at some point throughout the story. Aside from the characters, Into the Dark also gave us a new perspective on the Nihil, the main villains introduced in Light of the Jedi, and even introduces a brand new threat called the Drengir. The Drengir are a sentient species of living, moving plants that exist as a physical imprint of the dark side of the Force, and their one goal in life is to conquer the galaxy and feed on fresh meat. Just in case you think the plants can't pose a real threat to the Jedi or the galaxy at large, the book makes a point to note that the ancient Sith Empire once locked the Drengir away through idols bound to the dark side. If a species exists that is so dangerous the Sith can't either destroy them or place them under their control, you can bet the Drengir are bad news, but if they're more dangerous than the Nihil, we'll just have to wait and see. And speaking of the ancient Sith Empire, one of my favorite parts of the book didn't even have to do with the main story at all. Into the Dark finally confirms the theory I've had for a long time now, and especially after reading Light of the Jedi, that the High Republic era is entirely separate from the Old Republic era, with the book specifically mentioning the Old Republic and Sith Empire. The book also explains the Sith Temple built underneath the Jedi Temple on Coruscant a bit more, which I'm especially glad about because that has always been a point of confusion for me ever since it was introduced. To put it simply, there exists something called a vergence on Coruscant. A vergence is basically a direct line to the cosmic force, with it existing neither as the light or dark side, but as just the force itself. It just so happens that tens of thousands or however many years ago, the Sith found Coruscant and built a temple over the vergence of the Force first. The Jedi built their temple over the Sith temple as a final nail in the coffin for the Sith and a symbol to the galaxy that their evil was finally put to rest by the ancient Jedi long ago. Still, I'm eager to learn even more about this, which will hopefully come as Lucasfilm continues to canonize more of the Old Republic, which I'm now all but certain is what they're doing. But that is a topic for another video. As for this one, I've talked about pretty much everything I wanted to talk about as far as Into the Dark goes. It's another fantastic entry into the High Republic era, and another great novel from Claudia Gray. If you loved Light of the Jedi like I did, or are simply a fan of Gray's Star Wars work, I highly recommend picking up Into the Dark. It will not disappoint. As always though, I would love to know what you guys think of the High Republic era so far, or Into the Dark, down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you dropped a like, as those really do help a small channel like this, and consider subscribing if you want to see more Outer Rim Cantina content in your sub feeds every week. That's all the time I've got for today. I hope to see you back here in the cantina next time for another Star Wars video. Until then, may the Force be with you.